Hey Carl, I think you're at a really good place with your logo so far. I think everything's looking pretty good for the most part. I just had a few suggestions, but nothing major. Overall, things are looking pretty good. So I have your logo in Illustrator here. Um, Let me go back for a second. So one of the main things is when you look at the logo, it's a little bit, sorry, these are little ones that I was playing around with, but it's a little bit big compared to the type, so it feels like it's kind of dwarfing the type a little bit, and it's too dominant. So what I would do is go in and literally, sorry, let me undo that. Just shrink it down a little bit. So that was before, that's after. So literally just a little bit, and what that will do is kind of have this invisible border that comes up here, and it will help bring in the shape a little bit, because before when you had it perfectly aligned, which was great that you were looking at the alignment, but it just seemed like it was too big. So just take it down just a little bit, and I think that will balance it out a little bit more. As far as the type, I think that you did a great job laying everything out, because you have three really long words. So I think that you did a good job on setting those up properly so that it's nice and clean, looks very professional. One of the only concerns with that is I don't know if I quite get clothing from it, business attire. I definitely get like professional business. I don't know if I get attire though. So that would be the only complaint, I guess, about the text. And the only other thing, but it does look great though. I like the way that you laid it out. The only other thing would be maybe play around with making the B a little bit more prominent also, because you have the A that's very prominent. So maybe try and make the B just a little bit more bold so that it's kind of like the initials, like AB, American Businessmen. Casual art obviously is not, as far as the hierarchy, the most important thing, but these two words are. Everything's just so long, so I think you did a good job laying that out. The only other thing in addition to that is maybe play around with making these lines here, so that, because it almost looks like it has this divot here, like there's something going around the bird's neck or something. So maybe play around with that a little bit so it doesn't quite look like there's that divot there. Other than that, I think it's looking really good. The main things are just shrink it down a little bit. That's very, very subtle, but extremely important. And maybe play around with the type just a little bit. But don't change it up too much, because I love what you have here. Just try and maybe see if that B looks better when it's a little bit more bold. So cool. Looking good. A quick addition, I forgot there was one other thing that I changed that I wanted to mention. You might want to play around with, I'm pointing to my screen like you can see that. Let me use my cursor here so you know what I'm pointing at. With this part here, I had made this a little bit thicker so that in the end it kind of like rounds this out a little bit more, and it kind of adds more to that star slash A shape that you have going on. Try not to make it look too much like an anarchy symbol, like mine's kind of starting to look like, I think. So it's a little bit questionable, but you can see how when you make it a little bit thicker, how it kind of rounds out the back there. So play with that a little bit. And then you have a really nice flow with your logo here, which I really like, because then this kind of, with your type, it adds the baseline, and then it brings around this curve. And then with the beak, it brings you right back down here, which I'm sure you did intentionally because you did such a nice job on this. So just round out that back just a little bit and see if that looks a little bit better. I have them side by side, so when I'm looking at them, they look almost exactly the same to me, going back and forth. So isolate this and see if you think that looks better. And then also what I did is with this flow, I just added a little bit more height to the front of the head so it kind of follows that flow a little bit more, because it was a little bit lower, so it was a little bit premature, like you kind of get here and then it drops off a little bit too soon. So you'll have to play with it. It's nitpicking at tiny little things, but if you add just a little bit more height to it, it kind of like emphasizes that flow a little bit more, just like right in here. So all I did was just take up the head, or just add a little bit more depth to this so that the weight's a little bit heavier on the front part, and it brings that all together. All right, and that's the only other thing.